Good day and welcome to Lifestyle League. My name is Arthur Mafokate. I'm your host for the show, and my guest is Tebogo Lerole. Hola. You have forgot that thing. Am I doing it right?
Yes.
Defos. Okay. Is that your phrase or Kimanchumia Luna?
Cows. It's actually...
Who's that guy?
David Cow.
David Cow.
So David and I stayed in the same complex some years ago. And Tsepo, my younger brother, he's the funniest of all of us. Natholatla Corona, so
Yes.
he'd come and visit. And Tsepo had interest in these beds. But bita the kui full or...
Oh, these beds, yeah. They always disturb us
So
around here.
every time he would always say, man, Mdli. So David means I'm Mdli or Mdlalose. We'd be like, Mdli, does this no
Mdlaloso sa tsebeng Zulu, ne?
Yeah, it's a long story. I'll get into it. No,
I know ke Msotho ke tshore mara Mdlaloso sa tsebeng Zulu.
So Rimitse Mdlalose is because of professor.
Yeah.
Yeah, professor from KZN. So there was something we're doing, and then there was some line it did Mdlalose. So we Rimitse David ka Mdlalose. And in fact, it's a Rimitsa Mdli. Har tlhakana ke Mdli, Mdlalose, including Leslie Sidibe, Rimitsa Mdlalose. Yeah. Anyway, so Tsepo ba re kona man go na dinonyana tse every time ke tla re ke dutse mo le no re. So that's where this thing started.
Yeah, because all of us always, whenever we see you guys, we say where, but we don't even know where this is.
Yeah,
from.
no, it was taken from just birds making their own music or sound. Yeah,
wow.
Simple as that. Thank
Very
you for having me,
interesting.
man. How are you?
I'm super new.
I'm shocked to have known you for so many years and sitting on an interview with you.
You know what's the funniest thing? Let me ask you.
Ask me.
When did you first meet me? I just want to see if you've got a good memory.
I've got such a brilliant memory. When I met you, I was with my mother. We met you in
Alexander.
The
Wow.
first time.
Wow.
And I can even tell you, I could be wrong with the
Which year was it? Guys, listen to this. Which year was it?
I could be wrong with the year, but it was either 1993 or 1994.
That's how long I've known you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny that I always hear people saying Kwela Tebza and talking about the group. Na Kwela Tebza ne ke tseba ile one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because ke startile ke le one, and I used to move around with my mother a lot because Nelly manager yaga. And before...
How old were you?
I was 14 going 15. Yeah, I get like an lawyer. Wow. And by the way, guys, I used to look up to this guy. This guy was such an icon, man. You know, people look at you now and probably they don't even... In fact, I don't think everyone knows you, how impactful you were at the time. But I get like an lawyer. You were in a combi, you had dancers. You either had just performed or you were going to perform. But all I know is, Nje, there was always this thing about you. And funny enough, from that day, we became friends. And you've been a good guy all my life. I mean, you even would invite me to your studios. And I was in high school, by the way.
Imagine.
Yeah.
And I believed in you.
Yes, you did.
But I like the part where you talk about how dedicated one was. I even forgot about that I even had dancers by then. And people don't understand. I was passionate about stage performances.
Mamela, you were such a rock star, brah. A lot of people don't know. I just wish you documented everything as far as back then.
Unfortunately.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and those were the days, I think, Tasporo. But that was like my main song. I even remember the music video thing and the entire dance routine. I mean, we looked up to you. We were kids at the time, and we wanted to be in the music industry. But Harsheba way, and we're like, we want to get to where this guy is.
Yeah. But then you were so unique.
Yeah.
And very talented. Here's this young boy playing an instrument that, you know, at our time was sort of disappearing. What made you play the penny whistle?
I won't lie, man. I think at the time, as much as, you know, when you're young, currently any youngster would want to be more music in piano because it's the trend, it's the wave, it's the vibe. But back then, I learned how to play the instrument because of curiosity. Because the instruments were at home. And I asked him, can you teach me how to play? And it started from there. Hey, but that man, na shout out all the time, man. You know, he's a good teacher, but at the same time, not a good teacher. But
you blame me when I shout at the crew.
I blame you because that's not a way of speaking to anyone. There's an approach with everything, you know.
So did you tell your dad that?
No, I did not, because it was my time at the time. But I was
But it's still your
fortunate.
timer even now.
I was fortunate to have my mother, who toned down the noise that was coming from my dad. My mom would call me to the side and be like, "Don't pay attention. Focus on what you're doing. Focus on what is teaching you. Try and learn and accumulate as much knowledge as possible." So there was the voice of reason for me and the balance in everything.
So you would rather give your mom that credit than
Both
your
of
dad?
them, both of them. Without my dad, I wouldn't have learned how to play the instrument. But going back to your question, at the time, I was influenced by you. I was influenced by the sound ya kwaito, and I almost sort of dumped that instrument and walked away from Kwela music and chased what was in, and you were in, and so was all the other musicians at the time. But mom and dad kept me solid and kept me focused and said, there can be as many artists as possible. There's no one who plays this instrument. You're the only one. And as time went on, when we started now performing, doing different events and gigs and even going abroad, that's when it started making sense to say, actually, there is something within this sound and instrument.
You mentioned something earlier when you said you wish I had documented my life so that the people here could understand the role one has played in the industry.
For sure.
But when I listen to you speak now, I feel like you are also not saying much about the role your dad played.
True.
And I want people to understand why that penny whistle. Can we just go to your dad so that people understand and give him the props that he deserves?
You see, that's why you always must have, a female figure within any structure or within any foundation. Go high, the matriarch is our mother. So going back to my dad comes from era 50s, where Kwela music was like Kwaito music in the 90s, was like piano currently. So Kwela music was the only sound that youngsters from the era could actually make something out of. You could make money, you could, go and basket the street, you'd come back with a penny, which is why it was aptly labeled the penny whistle. But let's date back. The instrument is from Limpopo. That's where its origin is from. But remember that we were also colonized by the British. When the Brits came here, they took a lot of our culture and a lot of things that we were doing. Pedi people, Nabatala, an instrument from Matlaka, which looked like the penny whistle.
Oh, yes.
But it was made
that you
out
say,
of reed flute. They went back, these guys, back to Europe because the first company that produced the penny whistle is Horner. And Horner is based in England or London. That's where it started. And they brought it back this side to now sell it as an official instrument. But that was taken from us. If you look at the culture, the kilts or the Scottish kilts, it's that whole in colonization, England and all of that. That's why Baparadis gets it. So there was that cross culture of some sort. But anyway, then my father and some of the penny whistlers from the day then created this whole sound, Kwela music. Remember before, Marabi.
Yes, it was Marabi and then...
So whenever created Kwela music, and it started, it was a weird sound where they fused penny whistle and guitar. He got his penny whistle at the age of 10. He first started playing Ko Church as ZCC, where he played for the actual brass band as ZCC, but realized it's not his life. Ran away from ZCC, came to live more Alex Lay Mama High. That's where he got the penny whistle as a gift from one of his uncles. But Mufayona started playing from there. He recruited my uncle, Big Voice Jack. So, Kobatswang, ke Alex, there were no lights, nothing whatsoever. So the only thing closest that you could survive Gayon is music or become gangster. So there were two gangsters, Msomi Gang and the Spoilers. So my dad ran more to the side of music. But you can't run to the music without signaling or, having some mafia that you fall under. So automatically was adopted under Msomi Gang. He was given a 45 Magnum gun at that age, and still his focus was talent, music. It goes back to what you were saying earlier on, between managers and artists, artists have got this vision and dream, I want to get somewhere, I want to be somewhere. So he wanted that whole thing.
People also don't know that the name Kwaitos
Yeah.
actually originates from the very same gangs that you're talking about.
100%.
You know, and you look at Marabi, you say Kwela, and you say Kwaito.
Yeah.
It's a name that originates from the very same gangs.
From the very same gangs. But then the music was their escape, you know, because remember, we still have parents. Our parents know what's right and what's wrong. They will tell you, focus or else you'll end up in prison. But back in the days, the era of apartheid, you were either arrested for even playing music. My dad spent so many time being arrested in prisons in different places. How the name Kwela was derived, back in the day, there were police vans that used to pick up youngsters. If you were out there playing, once you look like Nkata Rutlavanyana or, you know, a smart kid, you are arrested, you are taken to prison. So it also confuses me, this part, because Kwela is a Xhosa derived word. So, which simply means we've always been intertwined as cultures, some of South Africa, because as far as back then, they took the term Kwela and they used it to describe this specific vehicle that would pick up our youngsters and arrest them.
Oh, Kwela.
So there was game yadi dice. That's always been a story for years. Young people would play dice in the corner or in the street corner. You'd have the penny whistlers all the time, because Barry, your penny whistle was like your gun. You would keep it in your pocket. Whenever police show up, you have to signal. Someone would say, and they spoke Afrikaans, which is Totsital, you know, like pidgin English right now, but theirs was Totsital. So one would signal, here come the Kwela Kwel.
Yeah.
So when the Kwela Kwel approaches, they start playing, pretending not to be playing dice or gambling or anything like that. And most of them would get arrested. As far as my dad has got one of the biggest songs, which is called Tom Hawk. I'll explain quickly. Tom Hawk is an Indian X. I can say before the Hopoli, if you've watched Indian movies.
Tomahawk.
Yeah, Tomahawk. So from that song, that X, he had a dream that came from, I don't know where, but he says the ancestors are high. They woke him up early in the morning, said to him, we've got a song for you. This song, call it Tom Hawk, and wake up your band, practice the song right now. And he did exactly that. Funny story is, then the song becomes a world-renowned hit. You know, probably over 300 groups in Europe have re-recorded the song. One of the biggest bands is called the Piranhas. The story about this song is, to this day, Cody Stadium, Leeds, Chelsea, and at some point, you remember Thierry Henry?
Yes.
When Thierry Henry would run into the pitch, that was like the unofficial anthem, Naba Mopelayon. So the Piranhas added lyrics on the song, but recorded the song. So that song became a stadium chant to this day. And then he recorded that song. It was plain flutes, no lyrics, nothing. And it was stolen from him by a guy called Arbo Pape. So that guy took his entire royalty. So one of the roles and duties why we picked up the instrument and traded with and made it something that we will focus on, or focus instrument or sound, was because we started getting into our father's fight to say, he lost the song belongs to him, and we want it back. So that's the fight. And every album we've ever released as Kwela Tapes, we've always had a different version that we make of that song, which is Tom Hawk.
Was the issue ever solved?
The issue is still not solved to this day. It's been changing, you know. At some point, my dad is one of the first people to become a SEMRO member. I think his receipt, he was either number 4 or something like that. So he still has kept all the information. Again, the matriarch, mom, kept everything because she's been filing everything high. So
I mean, I was shocked the other time when she showed me all those documents. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, so, you know, that's why sometimes you need a mulikanolo usoba and understands exactly what you're doing. So that's what she's been. But she also translated the entire thing, Corona. And even the reason why we dress up for the music, Mom said, you know, penny whistlers or Kwela music players from back in the day, most of them, they had that look, they were street poppers, you know, they were buskers in the street. And the first thing she said before we could even get into the music is, don't be like them. Go and dress up and look clean for this thing. Treat it like, you know, it's some high profile, you know, art piece, and give color and give prestige to it. And that's why we dressed up like we did.
Sorry, Tebzane, I'm going to focus too much on your dad because I feel like he's an unsung hero of the music industry.
Yeah.
And people must understand why the penny whistle
Yes.
and why the penny whistle shouldn't die. And I'll keep asking questions because whenever I sit with your parents, the stories I hear and I listen to
Too much.
are the funniest and the most beautiful stories that one could actually create a movie about. And I'll keep asking this question, so please pardon me. We
No
know
problem.
Tebogo Lerole, but hey,
My
Ntate
time is
Lerole,
coming.
yeah.
One day when I'm 80.
We'll respect you like that. I mean, if you listen to stories about the song, you know, used by Thierry Henry and all these teams, you know, it's just an amazing story that's untold.
Yes.
And the other time when we were at some party that you arranged and I was talking to your parents, one of the most funniest things your mom said was, Ish, wampona ke montle jwang? Mara ntate o nthotse ke le yang nyana jwang." Can you just relate how they met?
So my dad has always been, I'll tell you from, so Hakutla Joe's, ne? One of the most, you know, how Nali passion or vision, it will always pull you to where you're supposed to be. So this dream and vision took him and dragged him all the way to record labels, South Africa. At the time, it was Gailo Records, which was one of the biggest. There was RPM, there was Troubadour, and then I think there was HMV, if I'm not mistaken. So he...
At least I managed to see RPM and Galo. You know, I've been part of those two.
For sure. So he went there without any knowledge. Remember, Huri, he started becoming a breadwinner at the age of, I think, 15, if I'm not mistaken. And he started taking care of his family. So what that did, it translated into him becoming this man who has to look for work in Joburg or in Gauteng or in South Africa, in a way. So he searched for work. He ended up going to record labels and saying, I want to bring my own artists and record them here. So, which is more also like you as well when you were growing up. So he started looking for artists. He started searching for talent. He became a promoter. This is before he even went as far as releasing his own music. I can tell you for sure, my dad has literally scouted the likes of Oliver Mtukuts. For him to come to South Africa was because my dad literally went and fetched him and brought him here. That so means hore afitli Gauteng. Because he was requested by some, I think, promoter at the time who wanted to work with him, or some guy who was doing production on TV. So my dad was in KZN. Please make sure So he fetched him, brought him here. Ray Piri was also scouted by my dad. Mawotela Queens, Bo Oshilda Tlobatla and Kilibala Baban Mabitsa, they were also recruited by my dad. So this Bupape guy that shouted my dad's song already was Kodi record labels, as you know, my mother calls him house nigga, calls him names. He was in cahoots or working with the white folk at the time. So Maho at the time were chowing royalties and creation the black artists. It's sad, it's what happened, but so my dad went in there and said, I want to record my own artists, and that's where it started. One of the first groups he recorded was Dark City Sisters.
I know Dark City Sisters.
And
my mom had a vinyl.
And the reason why I named them Dark City Sisters is because it's from Ko Alex. Ko Alex, and it's Dark City. And that's why he gave them that name, because it suited them because of where they came from. Asibona babangata man, he's recorded so many artists that actually sold and made a lot of money. And then he also did his own work, but then focused on the music, Kwela music. But going back to Kwela actually gave birth to a lot of sounds in South Africa, or a lot of genres that we see today, including bubblegum and all of that, because there are sounds like Skatamia, Libo, Ngomabsugu, and all of that. All those sounds were recorded as far back as that era. I wish we had my dad, or we called him.
That's exactly.
I think you must arrange.
We need to find a way. Yeah. Yes, because I, you know, one of the reasons I agreed to have a show like this was so that we can celebrate our stars.
Yes.
Because people don't understand. They think in this country celebrating stars is ridiculing them.
No,
you know,
definitely.
There's a lot of untold stories, and it hurts me. And it's good that we're saying all these stories in front of young people that are getting into film, that are getting into music, for them to recognize and acknowledge. It's happening in the US where people get acknowledged and they understand their history, but I feel like we are losing it. And I had to relive your parents' life through you.
And the truth is, he's only done one interview, but it was very brief. Yeah, TT, Lema Timer, because I requested him to do. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to arrange Yana and my mother. You must sit with both of them. You must sit with them. You're going to have to, okay, well, it will be multilingual. But I think the best way for him to tell the story is to use Sotho and Afrikaans, because that's what he knows.
Ja,
the
maar ek kan
best.
Afrikaans praat. Wat sê jy nou? Ek kan Afrikaans praat.
Well, ek
Wat
kan
sê
nie,
jy
ek
nou?
kan nie.
Ja, maar ek kan Afrikaans praat. So
Alright,
ek sal
goed,
met jou time
goed,
praat.
dankie, no,
Yeah.
grand. So I'll arrange with them, you'll connect with them, and then
Dis
you'll get the entire juice. But you must, it's going to be a long one. You must get the entire story. Tell him, relax, be easy, and all of that. And
No, but you know
take it
what's
from there.
funny?
Yeah.
Don't forget that my dad is also from the same area.
Yes.
So maybe he'll give me some of the juice. And
Yes.
if it means we make them meet,
Yeah.
it will be one of the most juiciest episodes. ever.
Rishapa poki kos.
Yeah.
Harry, it's one.
So let's go back to Kwela Tebza.
Yes.
After a few years after we met, Lindelani releases you.
Yes.
I think it was under Till. Was it Till
Till
Records?
Records, yeah.
Yes. You see, I know my stories.
It was Till Records.
Yes.
Ah, you were accurate.
So how did Lindelani discover you? Because by then, you were not position one. You entered for the Shell Road to Fame. That's
Yes.
how we met.
Yes.
Me and you, we were at the Shell Road to Fame.
100%.
So you didn't win,
Yes.
but you were popular.
You are so accurate, right? Your brain.
Yeah, no, I know my stuff. Remember when I first saw you, I said, that boy is talented.
Yeah.
I wish he goes somewhere.
So a lot of people had this notion now that I won the competition, and
No,
actually
I
did
know
not.
you didn't. Because remember by then, it was groups like, it would be either Rebecca Malope or Princess.
No, Rebecca was way before
Yeah,
us.
yes, but there was Princess. Remember Princess did win. Maybe it might have been Princess. And at some point, there was Black Tycoons.
No. This is before my time, Arthur.
Yes.
When
Yeah,
I
I may have
was
been
allowed,
around for quite some
you're
time.
my elder.
Yeah,
You know.
I've been around for some time and I've entered for these competitions. You know, I tried and tried and tried.
But
you know,
you didn't need to. You definitely did not need
I had to gain the
You
experience.
had it in you.
But I had to gain the experience.
You see, there's always different streams or paths for that. When I was competition, and then there's like ones like you where you're supposed to do your own thing, and you did your own thing.
But you know how it helps you entering competitions? It makes you take your
prepares
career
you.
serious because you know that when you're going on stage, it's a battle.
It also prepares you,
Yeah.
teaches you a lot.
Yes, it's a battle.
So
That's why I had
let
to
me
do
take you
that.
to that one. So 93, I entered the Shell Road to Fame, but did not win. And 94, went back again.
Who won that year?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
So Harry Amole, we had two groups. I came from Deep Kloof, and go Deep Kloof, there was this big thing about imitating. So we were...
No, man, wait. Let me take a wild guess. Was it not that solo dancer?
No, you're mistaken. Let me take you through it. Ushapaki age, you know.
Yeah.
So we had a group called Shy, the American or US R&B group Shy, and then we had a group called Cash Money Brothers. So we went 94 now again. So the first year I went as a solo penny whistler. That's where I met Bo Pra, Victor Masondo, Bo Pagis. Remember Pagis?
Yes, Pagis. The late Pagis, no?
Yeah.
Yes, he passed away.
And I did not make it. Went back the second year. This is now 94. And now, Harry Amole, I'm not going back with the penny whistle. I'm going back as the dancing group. But fortunately, without me...
And what was the group of Acacias?
I don't remember.
They also
Acacias
won, if
won,
I'm
they're
not
older,
mistaken.
man. I
Yeah,
don't
they're
remember.
older. It's my generation. So
no, I don't
continue.
remember. So we went in there to dance. We danced, did not make it. But my mom and sister then decided they're going to enter me for the second year with the penny whistle. And that's where everything changed. It started from there, and then it started building. Then I won. I kept on winning the preliminaries, and then into the regional, step by step. Then now there was TV involved, which was Selima Tunes, the only TV that popularized most of us as artists from back then. And then I started having what we call pen pals, or fans, of term we use today. I used to get letters, and I used to get calls. I don't know, Lord knows.
Was Shell Road to Fame on Selima Tunes or Asymptote?
It was on SABC 1.
Yeah. Was
Yeah.
it not Asymptote?
It was not on Asymptote, but what it did, it got PR as a SABC product. So
Yes.
they would have inserts on Asymptote, on Selima
Yes,
Tunes.
because I ended up being an
Yeah.
Asymptote presenter after Romeo Kumalo.
You sure no Shapile as Kellen card.
Yeah, no.
My
My picture is still there at the SAPC. When you walk through that corridors and I look at it and I said, yo, I've been a TV presenter more than 20 years
And you
ago.
know, Khurwana, you were responsible for color blocking. You brought a lot of color where you were, but it was that era, man.
Yeah.
There was a lot of color.
I always say to people, me, I brought color. I didn't care. I would take a gray socks and put it with something else.
But very stylish. Anyway, so that's that year where it went all the way up and then ended up going to finals, Shell Road to Fame. But funny enough, that night I came number 3. So there was a guy, Barki Joseph Gili, who sang an R&B song. He actually won the competition. There was a lady, Baraki, not Ntogozo, Nkulego, something like that. I forget her name. And then she won position 2. And then Lindelani from nowhere was then called onto stage to introduce the artist that is signing up record deals. The first one he gave it to me. And I'm so
But
lost.
Lindelani has always been a visionary though.
Yeah, no, that man, Barry Dynamites come in small
packages.
Yes.
Yeah. Lindelani is one of those.
So it's the first one, gives me a record deal. I don't even know what a record deal is at the time. I'm still a kid, man. So I'm all excited. They call me, here's a record deal. And then I think my price was 3.5. The main price was 15K, and then, the...
We got 0, by the way.
Second price was 7.5. None that 15,000.
Yeah,
That's all
I
I was
remember
seeing.
it was a lot
I'm
of
taking
money.
this 15K,
Yeah.
go high. But anyway, I took the 3.5 home and the record deal. I was still in Aksakopla Lor Nigelgo grade man, but Nikela Lofeza school. Grade 8. Yeah, grade 8 or 9. Then Lindelani came to Kohai, spoke to my mother and all of this. Hey, my mother wasn't having it. I think she was let down with the fact that I didn't win the the top prize. But, Lindelani was persistent and patient. Young boy, But it was, there are moments where you have to capture it at that particular moment. So what happened is there was so much delay. And eventually when we went to studio, Lindelani was exiting Till Records, which is a person that discovered me at that competition.
Was he going to Sony?
He was going to Sony,
Okay.
yes. But he then brought Mduma Silela. Mduma Silela produced my entire first album, worked on it, and, it was a live thingy. But what we did from that live CD, we then started performing Kayon. My mother then said, okay, you have a group, you're dancing, let's take this dance routine salon, fuse it with the music, start performing. Take your 2 brothers, because she would complain, or they're lazy, this and that. Take them, put them in the group. In the meantime, they must learn how to play the instrument. So Tepo was...
Who was lazy between Mpo and Tepo? I knew it. I nearly said, Marampo seems like he was there.
Nelly Mpo was trailing behind, but Tepo has always had the, Tepo is an artist.
Yeah.
Clear, I just want you to know, because even currently, at some point, Mpo used to work on our production in terms of studio-wise and all of that. He studied sound engineering, but fell off. Then Tepo took over, and now Tepo's like the mastermind of the entire thing. So anyway, we started performing, and then, we would come to some of the shows. You would be billed Motsona. But as young kids, our interest has always been, Ishman, this Kwaito has got this, thumping bass, hi-hats, and, the young people are feeling it.
And you feel like it's the coolest thing.
It is.
Because yours is like,
thing.
yeah.
And ours is like so old, and, the sound.
But it's got
music.
a beautiful market, man. Your market is corporate.
At the time. And then after Shell Road to Fame, the first gig I got was go Civic Theatre. And I played for Peter Deck Ace. Remember that Afrikaans guy who used to wear
An
different
actor.
things? Yeah. The first launch of that thing, Khotla Tokyo Sekhwale. And it's got all these, VIP people. And I'm thinking, okay.
He's the premier by then, ne?
Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay. And he was still married to the white lady.
Yes.
Then the next thing, there are professors from Wits University. I remember one of the guys was Hugh Grant, if I'm not mistaken. But Hughes, and the wife was Tish Hughes or something like that. Or Grant Hughes. And then I'm thinking, okay, this is a different market. What is this? As a kid, you are learning and you're trying to adapt to
But
this
when
whole
you
thing.
want that friend of yours
Me, I
in the
want
street
that
to
noise.
scream
I
for you.
want that noise because at the time, hey, the noise is banging. You know, I remember after that, it's when you released Kaffer. And there was also Ghetto Raf.
Yes.
And Ghetto Raf, they had Scheme. They just released, or they were about to release.
I said they came a little bit long after us.
After you.
Yes.
But yeah, when I had Kaffer for a long time, and I was thinking, but this is when I used to come to you, because I remember Nekenako Highlands North Boys, and I'd always,
So it's easy on your way back
on
home.
my way home. Go
Hill, bro, you just know.
And I'd see all these artists.
You know, it's amazing when I listen to all the artists that have been to that flat of ours. Like, I can't believe. I mean, almost every young Kwaito artist in the country tells me a story about having to go to Hillbro just to see a glimpse of me, either going to the shops or waving at them or something. It's just unbelievable because I didn't know who they were.
Mamela, mind you, now I'm a kid. Kids was Soweto, and I have access to you because when I phone you, you tell me, no, I'm at the studio, just come through. Some kids at my school are seeing you and they're talking about you on TV, and I'm like, I know this guy. Now I go to this guy and I get there and I blow him and I chill. And at the time, I'll tell you, in the industry, it was you and then it was Junior. So you are like the guys that really like me, because if I didn't find you, then I would go Junior, and go visit Junior. And Junior had this nice 3 series raid. He'd always put me there in my place and be like, let's go on Twanayam. You know, we'd drive around Hillbro. I knew Hillbro without even, walking the streets, because every day, and he was such a fast driver, and Raf Kamo is carrying a gun, and everything. Just pity. And then from more, Tembi Sete then recognizes me and then invites me. Nakenako SE College. She invites me. She's like,
and we are just living like few meters away from each other.
Like you were here, Kaufelalo. And then she invites me. She's like, come to my school. I don't know what she was presenting. I think she had something to present for the class, and she obviously presented on Kwela music and all of that. And I did a whole thing, and then I played. I was so shy at the time. What's shy? So I played, and we started becoming friends then. And I remember as far back as that time, Theo,
yes,
we were good friends right now. Hey, that guy did not understand me. Next because they would take me to all the parties. You can imagine. So I would go to your space and then I would go to their space, and there was just all of this,
The nice thing about us and Kalawa, we were just a street away from each other.
Yeah, and then there was a point where you guys had the clashes. There was this beef and all of that. And as a kid, I didn't see any beef. I saw this
stars living in the same area,
making good music, and then I saw these ones making good music, and from there it then started building up. So I did that gig with Peter Dake Ace, and then from that
then
gig,
you are alone.
Yeah, I'm still alone.
Okay,
I'm still alone. No, I'm actually lying. I wasn't alone. So my mom was always the mastermind. Then my mom took Utsiba Palesa, the actress.
Yes.
She was on Generations at some point.
Yes.
Mama Mwanasomizi.
Bahumi.
Yes.
Yes.
My mom takes Palesa and takes my sister and says they must perform. There's a song that was called African Queen or African Woman in that album we did. So they were now the singers of that song. And then she takes some points up. She says, you guys are going to dance. These ones are going to sing. And when are you going to lead?
So your mom has always been a visionary.
Mastermind. That one, she knows how to plot at things. So we started performing. So as the guests, so we would go in the interval of that show. So as the guests come out, there was this intermission thing with every play. They come out. So the first thing is arrival. We perform. Guests are there. It was the whole thing. It was big. This thing how you perform and then guests arrive and then they go in, and when they come out, we're ready for them. So that event went on for about a month. And then from more, I got like my first official gig, which was the Jukebox Joel. I have invited you to it. I don't know if you made it, but I think you did. I invited you, and then I invited Boomshak at the time. So we did the Jukebox Joel. This is where I first met Somizi. I was still 15 at the time. Met Somizi, met Wendim Seleku, the late Wendim Seleku. and then worked with so much amazing talent, you know, creatives within the space of art. And then I worked with the director who was Janice Hannemans. And they gave me a fair break, you know. I was part of the theater production, but when the intermission comes back, I would open with my own song, which is a song I performed called Shell Road to Fame, the one that I got the recording deal for. And it was a whole big thing. So it taught me performance, it taught me the art piece, you know, the creativity, it taught me the discipline. I also learned to work with now different people. You know, I'm learning where there are, some people are coming from KZN. You know, you get to learn the industry and understand what it is. And that's where I got my first official gig. And I would take my check as is because I would earn it every week. Take it as is, give it to my parents. Then from there, we started now performing, and now we're seeing the light and vision. We're brilliant. There was a crew by Bita Pask 8, Nabadala Orchestra, Kokas. We took those guys, fused the music with them, started performing with them. Met another guy, Barki Mabeleng, who was playing djembe. Djembe was very big at the time. And Mahua, you know, there's something about the drum with white people. Took Mabeleng, put him in the band, so we had a violinist, we had a djembe, we had penny whistlers, which is a very unique sound that you can never just come across. Got our first gig, went to Sweden. Got to Sweden, we were in a cultural program with students from all over the world. So we're probably about 3,000 students, all in all. The first night in Fitla Mall, ra performa di pineri performa. Yo, bra. If Kirkowena, we did that routine maybe 2 times, I would be lying. We did it like 50 times. Now, everyone wanted to learn this whole dance moves, this whole penny whistle, because some of them do play penny whistles, some play, you know, traditional flutes.
But at what point did your brother start learning? Because yeah, because one could tell that this one started late.
Yeah.
I could tell, you know,
Yeah.
watching you guys,
Yeah.
I could tell that this one's
Remember how to perform the Peter Tech Ace show? They had already started, so you know there was practice. And the fortunate part, I forgot to tell you, that house was used as a rehearsal space. So from shy, from the dance moves, from everything, our father has always had PA systems, gear, and all of that because he comes from the industry. So we would use all that.
So you
equipment.
did Shy like the R&B?
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. I was introduced to Shy's music through an American guy that visited Soweto. And Shy by then was not released in this country. I think the big group was Boyz II Men or something.
It was Boyz II Men, then it was Silk, and then it was Shy was like one
he
of those.
came with that, you know, they had a cassette.
Yeah.
And it was in a paper box.
Lolo, what do you mean they had a cassette? I used to listen to music from
cassette, yes, but their cassette was in a box. Ours was in the plastic cover. And it was my first time seeing that. I was fascinated by that box. And this guy was telling us this group is going to be one of the biggest things, and I couldn't believe it. And a few months or a year later, Shy was the biggest thing ever.
And funny enough, you know, hey, what's up, Wakasha? Now even reminding me of, remember Abram? Remember New School?
Yes.
You had a dancer by Mr. Abram. Nalimuseo, yellow bone. You know,
Abi.
Yes, Abi. You know that guy, there's him and there's this other guy, Barki Vivi. He's also passed on. Naritwa Deep Kloof Kaufel. And Vivi was dancing in a machok. Where it's like a magnetic dance move or something like that. Those guys, I remember we won competing with Sinyaka.
So you could dance when?
Yes, Lolo. We chowed all the bands Nedilteng or all the dancing groups Nedilteng. We never came across of any of yours. But the last one that really win against Bona was Sinyaka Dancers or Sinyaka Boys or something like that. Rabashapel, and the final at Nenali Abi, Inali Vivi.
But Abi was
it was magical.
Yeah.
Magical. And then through Abi, I was then introduced to that other boy. Konjiki mama nalko new school.
No man.
Then no man.
So you've been there, Muswene. You paid your dues. So you guys started performing. Yes. You have incorporated your brothers. Yeah. And how does it feel like? You are always with your family on tour. and making money.
It didn't even make any sense. For us, it was, we are getting stamps on our passports and we're traveling, going to all these countries that we've never seen before. And, it's just, your talent and your career growing from one.
And it feels normal
to
because, if you become famous at an early age, everything just seems normal.
And it started from the age of 15,
Yes.
from Skolong. I had names like Kenny G, like a lot of people called me Kwela for a very long time. And, even teachers and how can I feel? It's like for now, I've never had anything, I've never been part of bad group, Skolong. So all my teachers, everywhere I've went, I've always been this kid who's, focused and all of that. And behind me, there's always been this thing of music that has always followed me. And then we started performing with even bigger artists. Like
how many albums have you released?
We released 5 albums.
5 albums.
Yeah.
And one of the most funniest stories is I got to know Vusi
through us.
Yes.
We literally cooked up Vusi. Two guys that we cooked up, our performer, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember you guys saying, hey, this guy, you must put him on the platform, Vusi Nova.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we performed with Vusi for so long, man. I think we performed with him for about 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. But within the 3 years, he really got to find himself and perform because Haram Tola, he was, cool cat.
How did you discover Vusi Nova? Where is he coming from?
Funny enough, through one of your guys. So one of your guys, Baraki Tyson.
Yes.
He now works for EMI.
Yes.
And we've signed a deal with EMI through Leslie Sidibe to release 2 albums. We released our first album. And then we see Vusi coming in and out of EMI. But we ask ourselves, okay, who's this one now? We don't know him. Then Tyson at like Corona, no man, I've got this boy. When you guys, we go out to the radio tours and promos, please take this guy with. So and we start connecting with him and we like him and all of that. And we're like, no, we don't have a vocalist. And remember, none of my brothers can't sing at all. So we're like, we'll start taking this guy and he'll come and sing our songs. And we did.
Yes, because I saw him in one of your gigs and I was stunned.
Yeah, we did. And we really, really killed with Vusi. And I look at him today and I see how passionate and driven he is. And I'm like, what's again? As an elder, I've done my duty.
Yeah. Foundation
there's a few guys that I look at. Even Donald. Donald.
Yes.
Because Donald, after Rona, he also catapulted Lena, did his thing. And I look at him, I'm like, yeah, no, we did some good work.
So how do you stop after 5 albums? And what makes you stop?
We're weird, man. I think we've got a weird family dynamic. The first 2 albums that we released, the first one was in '96. So I did my first album with Mtuma Silen. And then the first 2 albums we released with Gallo Records after we came back from one of the tours that we're doing. I've got people I know at Gallo Records that can, sign you up. And we did. We signed up 2 albums, ready release. But again, you guys were running the streets. So there was no young kid or anyone was going to say, I want to buy this album. So the sales were not explosive,
But I don't think your music was about sales. Even though record companies...
It's never been, it's never been. But you're right, record companies will box you under the one thing, this one has sold so much, you guys...
Yeah, because that thing can depress you.
Exactly, especially as a kid. And you're thinking, okay, these ones are getting so much play, these ones... But your journey is your journey, man. You don't choose it. What you are given by, the greater beings or, by the universe. So it's also good to toil and focus on your journey and not look from the outside. It's good to look and see ideas or learn from them, but not be depressed.
But I think it's much better now with the digital space. Because now you can do music.
But it teaches you to also find ways, because I can safely say, we couldn't maybe have thousands or 20,000 people buying our CDs. But we were smart enough to learn the industry to say, I can literally get a corporate company to buy my CDs. They can buy 20,000 CDs. And I can give them out as gifts to anyone that I want to listen to my music. So you end up learning those strategies and ways of how to maneuver your own career and how to build your own career. So it's one of the things that we had to learn or got to learn. And then did 2 albums. Let me finish my story. And then we stopped. We stopped because, I don't know, man. We just did not find any excitement in it. And that's when I started working. I was recruited by a colleague of mine who was like an older
Were you working
brother.
for Brand House, ne?
No, I started working for Benson and Hedges.
Okay. Oh yes.
Yeah, so I've paid so much dues. So within Benson and Hedges, we
Oh
did
yes, and
we
then
did all the
cigarettes got
festivals.
banned, and
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
We did a lot of festivals and we booked a lot of artists. Now I was in a space where, you know, you start appreciating where you are because the same artists that you used to look up to, now you are booking as,
Yeah.
you know, you decide, all right, Ole Ramon, guy, that one, no. No, this one we like, you know.
Yeah.
So we started that journey and I worked very closely with Daddy and we did quite, I think we worked for about 2 years. Then I got tired from it. You know, a lot of people don't know the nightclubs that start. We're one of the people that started these events, go to nightclubs. I was one of the people that championed that industry or that space, you know. Guys like Bo, Stefan, Kiatula, Kibashebe,
Yes.
Honano, Luana, they were, you know, persistent and they stayed within that space. But I can tell you from back then when he didn't even have the nightclubs that he's owning right now, and he had like a small restaurant called King Norwood.
Norwood.
Yeah, because that's where, you know, we learned there was stage and then there was his establishments called Norwood. You know, coming from South or from Township, you would literally direct people who no, start a Friday, and nightclub ne start at 8 o'clock at that time. And then wakena the likes of your DJ Fresh. Then there was house music. And kina could say, I think Luna okay, I know you were there. You were there. There was more Kwaito and there was more house music. So there was this whole era.
So
this
then
is when we stopped. And this
You
is when I
moved
went.
from cigarettes to Brand House, or?
No, not yet. After then I went to Peter Stuyvesant, Litade. And then from Peter Stuyvesant, I then moved away from him. I was now growing older. Then I went to Red
There was
Bull.
that other guy, I think is Speedy's relative. He was also working for Stuyvesant.
Matlaku, Sydney
Sydney,
Matlaku.
yes.
Sydney Matlaku,
Yes.
yes, was never beat on the RCM. He
Yes.
was the RCM for Peter Stuyvesant as well. But I went the direction of Red Bull. So one of those canned cars,
Yes.
I used to drive that thing. I started from the VW bags.
So now you are,
I'm not in the music now.
what do we call you at that particular point? You guys that are doing PR or
Marketing. We're in the marketing team.
yes.
So our duty was to
Brand
unearth events,
coordinators and stuff.
support events, any event that we think makes sense. We go and
You were
supply
mainly-
Red Bull.
in today's world, influencers.
Something like that.
Yeah, because
Something
you guys
like
were
that.
influencing the market.
Yeah, something like that. We actually gave birth to a lot of trends at the time
Yes.
because even parties that did not make sense, we would come to those parties and give them direction or shape them and be like, you know, because I look at guys that I used to work with back in the day, you know, we look at each other at times and be like, yeah, we literally created the streets that everyone is roaming around Montreal.
Yeah.
So did Red Bull, and then after Red Bull, that's when I went to Brand House. And Brand House was like my graduation. So I graduated at Fitloko Brand House. I now started doing all the big events because we were now doing even international events because we had the new Smirnoff Red that came into the country. There was the Smirnoff 1818 Elakhale. So what that taught me, it literally helped me to sort of, you know, correct my mistakes where I didn't know how to write a proposal, how to set up an event, how to present it, and how to literally find ways and know who's who. Where do you find a budget and how do you present?
So then, but why did you guys stop doing that? Because I know now your main focus is Act Now.
Okay, I'll tell you. So in that process, that's all we are in a way. Lots of my leader ancestors, you can't really control it. Then from nowhere, I tell my boss, or listen, my boss was a very cool guy, man. Some guy,
Because you are an artist, you are
Trevor
performing, you're getting paid.
Yeah.
You move, you're becoming a show promoter or a promoter or whatever you guys called yourselves, and you're earning a salary.
Yeah.
And you're connected to all these famous people. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no person that you don't know.
Yes.
And then suddenly you're focusing on Act Now.
Yeah. So what started Act Now is from back then when we were performing, me and the brothers have always wanted to give back to our communities because we feel like, or we believe that for the longest of times, they've showed us love, they've supported us, they've come to our events, come to our shows, bought our music. So it was that thing where as a black child, you can't look or overlook another black child going through something. This conversation started so mildly. Mpo says, you know what, there's a young lady who got raped because Soweto. We come from Soweto, there's no way we can just turn a blind eye.
Which year was it when that
This
group
was
were formed?
Act Now,
Yes, because
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Oh, why did I think it was 2019?
No, no, no.
Are
no,
you
it's
sure?
100%.
Oh, wow.
2020, we launched
Seems like
Father's
we've had
Day.
Act Now for years and
Forever.
years. Yeah.
No, it's the faces. So I started a WhatsApp group. That's where it started. I started a WhatsApp group where when I'm about to send messages to everyone else, it dissolves. I do it the second time, it dissolves. I wake up the next day. I think my device was either outdated or something. The second day, I do it. It goes through. It invites everyone that you can think of. Everyone. Yourself was there.
Yeah, I don't know how I find myself
Black
in there, but
Coffee,
yeah.
everyone was in there, and we all had the same notion. We're like, guys, young lady just got raped. We're tired of this. We want to go march. I think the first thing that was exciting us is we want to go march. And
Yeah.
you know how men are. You know,
I
first
remember the
thing,
march
reaction before
from
anything. Yeah.
Nazareth to
Yes.
Pretoria.
So we push. Eventually, we changed even names. You know, even the name Leila Act Now. Funny enough, you know, Moika
It was
Sisulu.
Mzansi Act Now. Ne?
No, it was not.
What was it?
Now NOW.
Because I remember there was a question in the group.
It was
as
not
to which,
our,
yes,
not our women.
yes, something
That was
like
the name.
yes.
So
but
Moiko-
Act Now was voted for.
Moiko Sisulu,
Yes.
the late Moiko Sisulu, then says, no, man. He takes the NOW, breaks it down. He says, call it Now, but add something. Then he added Act, and then it was Act Now. It was the name that was
Such a
then.
beautiful name.
Yeah, and then we started, and then we had our first march. Shockingly enough, we had, I think, because we sent a request to president and said we want the president's attention, want to go and see him and all of that. But as a march, we had over 1,000 cars.
It was a lot of cars.
So
In fact, that march must happen again. but continue.
presidency then called. They were like, hey, it seems like you guys are coming with a very big riot. There's no way the president is going to see it. So they thought we were coming with a notion, and all of that. So they then gave us an audience. Ronald Lamula was the Minister of Justice at the time. And then they gave us Deputy Minister Castle Matale, Minister of Police. And then it was, came on the lady who left, who was Minister of Women, Women, Youth, and People with Disabilities. I forget her name. So that's where Act Now started, and everyone was like, we're endorsing this.
Was it not Aus Pinky by then?
No, it was...
Pinky Kakan?
No. It was, who's that lady?
Was
man?
she not a deputy somewhere
She
there?
fell ill. Yeah, no, she was a deputy.
Yes.
What's her name, man? But yeah, it was.
Mam Dlamini?
Nope, not Mam Dlamini. Lady was very quiet, so she fell
Oh
ill at some point.
yes, I remember. The name will come
She's
through.
got two parallel names,
yes.
and I think it's on that that are throwing me off. So, and you know, a lot of people, we had even, you know, naysayers, we had a lot of women who were interjecting, were saying, yeah, these ones, who do they think they are? You know, all of a sudden, they're in this GBV space, this is a money-making machine. You know, there were so many comments coming, but, you know, half a decade later, we're still here, and we're still going strong.
And I see you are getting a lot of support from government. I mean, you guys are visible.
Yes.
Too visible.
Yes.
Or very visible.
100%. That is the task. You see, there are a lot of foundations, and I think the first question we ask ourselves is, what do they really do? Because we don't see them. Some are so vocal to a point where they've got, you know, big numbers on social media. For us, I think the duty is literally on the ground to support the victims, be with the victims, and ultimately the end goal is to end violence completely. And, you know, South Africa is very violent when it comes to the men, before we even go to women. You know, there's so much aggressiveness within us. You know, the first thing you say is type of a thing. So I think that attitude is what we're trying to get rid of. You know, maybe we are going to struggle with the older generation, but these young ones, we are working tirelessly to make sure we are planting, you know, a lot of, you know, good.
How do you differentiate yourselves from other foundations? Because I've got my own personal view about all these foundations, but how do you differentiate yourselves from others?
Well, our focus is literally everyone. We're not choosing who mang, and we have no limit. We go anywhere. We go to areas where no one will go. some foundations will strictly focus on just the awareness, and some will focus on the legalities of the industry, and some won't even go the squalors or squatter camps. We go as far as, setting up work within those spaces, because at the end of the day, we really want to see the change and we want to see it happening. And we are championing it through, working with men, because when we started the foundation, our focus was women and children, but we realized the entire nation is actually scarred. And how we then get to curb the schedule on GBVF is to literally involve men or include men within these programs. And our learnings and our teachings then ended up getting into spaces where we are adapting men. I was then identified and also requested to become the deputy president for the National Men's Forums of South Africa. But what that did as well is it then gave more depth into working on men or men programs, because we have a big issue of men's health in the country. We have a big issue of the seclusion of men within the programs. At some point, men believe that GBV or GBVF was a punitive measure used by government, to penalize the male figure and all of that. So we did quite a lot of programs where we went into taverns and all of that. And recently, the program we just launched, or campaign we just launched, is a Betterment for Tomorrow, with our patriot being the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile.
One of the reasons I asked you as to what differentiates you, I've seen in our society that sometimes an issue is raised.
Yes.
And then automatically you as organizations become the law. You make a decision.
Yes.
And you create an outcome and start victimizing people, regardless of whether you know the story or not. And I'm trying to understand, how is that going to change? Because at some point, you guys need to advocate and allow certain spaces to do what they're supposed to do. Hence, I asked you as to how are you guys going to deal with such? Because it might be one of the reasons people continue to be the way they are.
So the only way we would react, once you start something, you learn a lot. You learn about the space, and then you also get to understand what you are mentioning right now. So there's the law, there is the security cluster or the policing, and then there's the legal side of things. First of all, you can't say someone is guilty unless the court deems it so. So even your statement that you released must have the term alleged. I can't say Arthur has assaulted someone. I will say Arthur Mafokate allegedly, do you understand? And it's not a confirmed story or status or comment. But you also cannot keep quiet. If I see a video of you assaulting someone, we then rise up and you also judge it, and you go through a long process where you sit down with expertise and with specialists that will tell you, no, when we look at the situation, it is so, but we cannot say you are guilty. But we will rise up and we will want you to be accountable for your actions. If you have caused someone harm, then you need to rise up. But in most cases, what we also do that a lot of people don't know is we don't penalize you. We don't, go there and bash you down. We go in there with trying to understand what causes this reaction from you. How do we end it? How do we fix you? How do we take you through counseling and get to, bring you back into your community? Because ultimately what we are hoping for is situations solved amicably. Unfortunately, you can't solve a situation amicably where someone has been murdered or someone has been raped.
But having said that, though, you also don't want a situation where people take advantage, hoping that they know there's going to be correctional measures.
Mamela, and there's a lot of those. And
this thing is both ways.
There's a lot of victims that have been wrongfully arrested. There's a lot of men that have...
I know a guy that has been there for years in jail.
They've served in jail for rape. But that also goes back to the investigation, because if the police are investigating, they must investigate, and it has to be accurate. And, at some point we had an issue at DNA backlogs within SABS. So these are the teething issues that we are trying to work closely with, and hence why we're working with government, because government has got most of the resource that we require. And the issue then becomes still the funding for some of these foundations, because their fight is through their voice. They can't really do much.
Yeah, I was about to go there, that sometimes because they're seeking attention too much up to a point where they make reckless mistakes.
Yes.
And reckless messages and statements.
Yes.
So aren't you guys thinking of maybe a regulatory body or an association where there's a code of conduct? Because some of these things can be tarnishing and can actually destroy a person's brand, because they take what's written in the media and they go out there and they put, you know, oil
Fuel
into the
and-
fire,
and-
fuel into the
well-
fire and
well,
make it worse. Hence, I'm saying, can't you guys find a way of being regulated
It's very
and
difficult,
follow
yeah.
certain protocols of making these statements? Because I can go form an organization today with 3 of my friends or 5 of my friends and call it, you know, what NPC, and then start making reckless mistakes. But when they get interviews, they get interviews as the organization that's leading in fighting for.
But some have got an agenda. Remember, Huri, there's some funded structures and organizations that we don't know of. And, you know, from the minute it started or from its inception, the idea is to go destroy the music industry. And within the music industry, we've got these figures. If we can deal with this 10, we've collapsed the entire industry. And there are people that will take money and go to that. And unfortunately, at the moment, the big regulation is focused on the policy and the rights of South Africans. So what we're trying
Which
to
gets ignored
yes,
when there's a problem.
yes, absolutely. So now going back to regulating the foundations and the NPCs, it's something that's still not done, because I think the confusion at the moment, now I want to speak on GBV, the confusion at the moment is we're trying to understand what causes perpetrators. And there are many perpetrators. I mean, there are many cases that are out there. Like, a lady will just show up and be like, no, someone raped me. But, you know, we go into cases that we can see the serious impact in them. Someone can just say someone raped me because they were trying to solicitate 20,000 from them or 10,000 or whatever amount it is. There's so many foundations. So I believe and strongly feel most of us can take up some of the cases. Our main focus is to go into spaces where there is serious outcry, where there is serious, you know, crime. I'm not saying the report or the thingy, the request by anyone or the opening of cases by anyone is deemed null and void. I'm just saying there are cases that you look into and you also question yourself for, why are we even part of this case? Why are we even supporting this case? And in most cases, you know, at the end of the day, you find that there was no rape case, there was nothing, absolutely. This was just an infight between 2 partners.
Exactly. So organizations like yours need to exist.
Yes.
We need more of them.
Yes.
You know, and I think you guys need to go out there and start advocating for the unity of those organizations, so that there's some way of a code
There
of
won't
conduct.
be, man, Arthur. There won't be. Because some organizations look into organizations. Runa, we take money from our own pockets. We invest in what we're doing. We invest in changing or reshaping this country. Now I'm not going to end up in Dubai and stay in some country. I'm going to end up here. I have my daughter who was brought up here. So I need to make sure I clean up the streets, or I clean up as much as possible, or I conscientize and educate as much men as possible. The only way I can do that.
And talking about that, because
Yeah.
I've seen you with
Yeah.
your daughter participating, Tato,
Yes.
being part of this, and I'm glad that you have started teaching her at an early age to understand all these dynamics.
Yes.
So that, you know, she understands both sides of the story.
Of course.
You know, at an early age. Is she still part of?
She's still part of it, but she's also studying at the same time. So, you know, where we can have her access, we bring her in. Where we can't, we let her carry on with the studies. But I think at some point, Lena, I'm going to retire, and I just want to leave it up to them and focus on something else that I might be doing. Who knows, I might be going back into the music industry and performing. I told you,
That you better do.
we have a weird dynamic, you know. It's like a calling, you know.
Yeah.
When it comes, it comes. It chases us, it finds us. Leon currently it's been chasing us because we just recently performed at Lebu M's foundation launch as well. So he triggered it and he's been triggering it. So high possibilities we could be doing it again. Because we're very choosy with this thing. Yeah, now we don't perform anymore. We only perform, like if you were to say, guys, please come and perform, we'll definitely do it because we come a long way with you. But a promoter, I've got a gig, it's like, nah, sharp. You know.
Tell me, what were Act Now's highlights?
Act Now's highlights.
You know, I need to hear about the highs and lows of Act Now, because
Yeah.
I keep looking at you guys, more especially when you post messages in the groups, and you know, you guys are doing amazing work,
I appreciate
and
it,
I feel like you're not getting enough support. I've seen
Yeah.
a lot of people supporting, but it can only get better
Yeah.
with that support because you are passionately
Of course.
involved.
No, I'm truly honored, and even on behalf of the team, because I feel like everyone gives, you know, 100% of their time and contribution to making sure that we do the work. One of the highs was us walking from Gauteng to KwaZulu-Natal, Durban. We did 456 kilometers in 10 days and dedicating every footstep to every victim of gender-based violence and femicide. So it's like one of those things that we do. There are things that make you feel good. You know, it was painful on the journey and all of that, but we felt good that we're representing a cause that not so many men will go into. In fact, many men will want to run away or shy away from it. And apart from GBVF, there's quite a lot of societal ills that impact us as people, you know. Yesterday, I was at Metro FM with TT, and we're focusing on a topic of, you know, men that grew up without fathers. You know, there's what we call father complex, and it's a big issue. We've known it to be something that only impacts women, aptly named daddy issues. The truth is, a lot of men have actually grown up without fathers, and you ask yourself, for where is the hate coming from? Where is the abuse coming from? But if you track back or relate back or go back, this is where you find traces of all the challenges that we're faced with. You know, as a society, we're impacted in a very difficult and hard way. You know, there's poverty, there's crime, there's all these things, but all these things obviously come from some mishap from our upbringing.
So, if you were to sit with the president
Right now.
and the president says, how can I help you? What would you ask for?
I would ask the president to first help himself, because as a president, the first thing that you need to do is see the growth of your nation and the growth of your people. The first things first now, as a president, I'll try and get rid of all the squatter camps, Mikuku and all of that. You know, we did a song with Femi Kuti back in 2019 or 2018. We went to Nigeria. You know, the first thing that guy said was, I'm actually disappointed in Nelson Mandela and the ANC. And we asked him why. And he said, I can't believe that from the days of apartheid, people were living in tin houses or in tin shacks, and to this day, they still have the same houses in that South Africa. I think if you drive into any community in South Africa today, currently, Mikuku everywhere, every single place. And I'm sure the president drives past with his convoy, but he will drive past an area in Alimikuku and all of that. So as a president, I don't even want him to help Act Now for this case. I want him to help the people of this nation, you know, convert the people of this nation to becoming better. There is poverty, there's the poorest of poorest, but, you know, look at Dubai. Dubai was built not so long ago, but, you know, the leaders have a vision that says, we are going to make this place a better place.
And somebody would say they have oil.
Yeah, well, we have minerals. Where are these minerals going? Can we not use these minerals for our country? We've got farming. We've got a lot of things. We've got a lot of intelligent people. We've got production. We're sitting in production right now. Why are we not selling these stories? Why are we not exporting our stories? So many people would want to learn about Arthur. They would want to learn about you championing Kwaito music. In Zimbabwe, they would want to learn about you. Why are we not selling those stories? Why are we not amplifying everything that we are? I mean, look at our creative industry space. Is it growing or is it collapsing? We currently have young people that have championed a sound that literally, you know, drilled holes into the US, in Europe, maybe back in Asia at the moment. But where's their backup? Where's their support? I mean,
I was actually shocked. I was talking to somebody at the
yeah.
SABC,
Mm.
and I said, I'm shocked that you are a public broadcaster
Yeah.
that doesn't even celebrate culture in song.
Yeah.
There's no TV show that plays music.
Nothing. Nothing. And I mean, for years now, I mean...
But how does that happen? I mean,
I don't
it's
know.
only when somewhere in the middle of the night where they're just putting the videos because there's no...
It's used by, like,
Yeah, but
by the way.
What happened to our country?
I have no clue.
But what happened to our country?
I have no clue. I'm here, I'm trying to change as much as possible, but you know, you can't do everything by yourself. You need people to help you, but it starts with love. You have to be patriotic about this place. If you're not patriotic about it, if you've got, you know, money that's placed in other countries and you're going to leave anytime soon, then yeah, maybe it makes sense. But what about those that are living here? Because number one, when it comes to music, ka Iraya Tamalaka and Iraya Poma Hotela Queens, those guys were leading the entire continent. Lucky Dube was one of the toppest artists that we had here. You know, they were the ones that were touring. Today we are like an audience at some point. We watch the Nigerians. If it wasn't this generation at piano, they saved us, to be honest with you.
But it's because the people that are leading sometimes lack the vision that we have. Maybe we might be choosing wrong leaders.
Maybe it's time for them to go. Maybe it's time for them to go. Maybe it's time they, you know, bow out and we've got younger people that come in. I mean, look at you, for example. How can we have someone who is a minister in sports but has no background of music? This is my biggest question. I have no issues with the current minister who's in that department. In fact, he's doing a good job. I've seen how he actually attends events and pushes the narrative. But why not have someone who has the expertise? You built music from nothing. You were not funded. You were not given a pass by anyone. There was no government that helped you. Maybe at a later stage, yeah, you had partners or people that then saw the vision. But why not carry on with that vision? It's the issue we have more South Africa.
Which then takes me back to that question. I'm the president.
Yes.
You've spoken about what you and Femi Kuti were talking about squatters. But I'm meeting you, Tebogo Lerole, as the chairperson of Act Now. I need to help you because I know there's a serious problem of GBV plus F, and I'm trying to assist you.
Yes.
How can I assist you?
Put out money, put out funding. There's no funding for GBVF. There isn't anywhere. We see the structures that claim to be funding GBVF, and everyone was given a mandate to support GBVF from all government departments, all corporate sectors. Most of these companies or corporate brands that we see in South Africa have got KPIs that they need to tick or fill up at the end of the day, and part of it is that they end GBVF in South Africa. But it's not happening. It's not active. Show me one politician who's adamant in saying, I'm rising up against GBVF and it's going to end. And we see it. As much as they are passionate about politics, they must also be passionate about societal ills. There are things that, you know, countries just ignore plain and blindly so. I don't know if everyone is focused in making more money, and that's what it is. But the truth is there is no real support. We are the real support. Sometimes, but we are on our own. We're literally on our own. If we don't rise up and say we're going to fight GBVF, show me any other support or show me any other foundation that's really out there. And if there's a court case, they go to that court case. If there's a victim, they go to that victim. I mean, if the police are afraid, then what are you saying to me?
That's
tough.
very sad.
It's very sad and it's very tough. Really crime.
But unfortunately, we cannot allow organizations like Act Now to fail.
It's not going to fail.
Hence, we need to keep pushing for organizations like Act Now to achieve their goal. Because whether we like it or not, GBV is not good for our country.
Yeah, it's not going to fail, and I appreciate your good words. And, you know, we are so passionate about what we're doing. There is no way we're going to let it go. We're going to fight it until, I don't know what happens, until it literally disappears. We will constantly be that reminder or that voice that will be the voice of reason, or that will constantly call out government or anyone else who happens to be either perpetuating or either a perpetrator.
Yeah, Debs. I think, we need to meet again because I would love to see you after a few months.
Okay.
You know, the meeting with the parents is something else. But I need us, when we come back, we don't focus on
Music.
Debza. We focus on Egg Now, even if you come with guests,
Yes.
you know, so that we try and pose a lot of questions to the government.
100%.
Because there's a big gap.
There is.
And the problem keeps escalating. You know, if it was diminishing, I would understand. But the fact that it's escalating, you know.
And it's gone as far as even young men, you know. I would understand, or maybe our uncles and timers were disturbed somehow, somewhere. Ne? But it's now a ripple effect. It's poured on to young people where we've seen a lot of cases. I mean, if a young man who's younger than me goes and chops a woman into pieces, I'm in a suitcase and then tries and dump that. Rona Nerhola, we were inspired by the likes of you. You wanted to be in the music industry. You wanted to be either creative or you wanted to be in some money-making business or something like that. But today, what is the influence that we have? I mean, let's talk about right now. Who is influencing our youth? That is the biggest problem. Let's also go into probably what we see on our screens. Are we driving an agenda of too much violence? Is there too much guns? Are we saying that young women are only appreciated in skimpy outfits? What are we saying? There's a lot of conversations that we need to have as a nation, and we're not having these conversations. And there are too many. We're in one country, but in this country there are too many countries. Because if right now Katlo Amoye deep slot and just spend a day in deep slot, I've gone into deep slot where I've spent a day to try and understand what's really going on. You'll understand that a high school has got a gangster, and the high school has got another gangster, and these gangsters fight amongst themselves. Kibana, you know, kids in schools. What do they know about gangsterism? The poverty is literally in your face. But then what?
Tebogo, before you go, there's just a few fun questions that I want to ask you. Because, you know, people, we got emotional, we laughed, but now, you know, let's just have fun.
We want the rainbow.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you must answer quick, ne? But if you can't, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about your guilty pleasures. Ne? The first one. Is there a particular song or artist that you secretly enjoy but might surprise your fans? Because they might not know that you love that artist.
I'm funny, man. I move with times. My current artist is Kanye, and that's it.
The name of the song?
Hectic. There's so many of them.
We want one.
What's that song? La 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 la. Da 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 da. My money right, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. It's your hidden secret song.
No, it's not.
No, I want that hidden one that you love but you can't expose to people. That one that you we ratela ko dikoning.
Hey, ayo, man.
Are you sure?
No, I'm an expressive person, man. I'm Gemini. Once I like something, I like it. I cannot the hidden agendas. I won't be liking a song.
So at the moment, it's just la 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 la. That's the one we love.
Yeah, I love so many songs, but yeah.
I'm sure it's a Mapiano song.
No, but I would express it. If it's a song I like, I would be like, oh, it's this beat or this song is
in front of Tato.
Yes.
You would say, hey, Tato, hey.
This song, and she knows me. We even dance to it. She knows all the songs I like.
Okay. If you could have dinner with any three musicians, past or present, who would they be and why?
Tupac, past, current, Kanye. Because of their creativity, they're both Gemini, and they're like my alter egos, and I've seen them, you know, convert something that's nothing into something in this world.
The third one?
That one. Let me include you, man. You
can't get it a favor.
It's a favor.
Imagine me, Kanye, and Tupac. That's going to be hectic.
Are you aware that I've counted only Geminis? I look up to a lot of Geminis, and especially the most successful ones and the ones that are doing things. I mean, you could have ended in your Kwaito era, but you did not. What have you done? You multiplied everything that you had back then.
Do you have any pre-show rituals or superstitions you follow before you perform, and why?
So we pray with my brothers, especially Mpo. He will always say a prayer before, And then we usually have like a moment of meditating. Either we meditate with our flutes and you just keep on playing it. And there's one thing that I do all the time, I pace around. And it's to calm my nerves. But I pace around for a number of times and then I still get, I almost said the cussing word, I still get scared to this day. And yeah, but I need to, sort of amp myself up before I go on stage. And that's what I do.
If you weren't a musician, what career path would you think you would have? Oh, sorry. If you're a musician, which career path would you've went for?
If I was a musician?
If you're not a musician.
If I was not a musician.
Yeah.
I'd probably be like a record label owner, or I would own, talent. I'd be running talent and be curating talent because I'm also brilliant when it comes to that. I can literally manage and create an artist out of nothing, and it's something that I've never tried with myself. I've never really found someone and worked on them. But there's a lot of people I've worked on, but not holistically. So if you were to give me an artist and say, here's an artist, I'd probably convert them and turn them into a megastar.
Wow. What's the most unusual place or situation you've found inspirational? What's the most unusual place or situation where you've found inspiration for a song?
Flip. I wouldn't know, man.
Toilet, maybe?
No. That's more I speak with the gods, man. More I just want complete peacefulness and no stress. I think music, the funny thing with music is usually influenced by situations that you're in. You get influenced to create a song from listening to another artist or by just being at a show, or by just looking or listening to people chanting. You could be at a festival, you could be at a concert, you could be at a church. So I don't have those spaces, and I'm not really, mostly in spaces of creating music at the moment. It's something that I do and then I stop, I do and stop. So I'm not constantly in music.
Funniest or memorable incident that happened during a live performance or a recording?
It's always happening, eh? My brothers, they're always tearing their pants because we still dance to this day. So every time Marucha bona khutla khegile mo in the middle, but we haven't fallen or any funny things like that. It's usually wardrobe malfunction. Or we'll go to a show and 1 minute in Portland, there's a show we did. He had his shoes, he was taking his shoes. When we got to the show, he didn't have his shoes. Had to wear sneakers. Tsepo, there's always, some weird stories. But the funniest one is one where we once left our flutes. We left them, went to the show, got to the show, and when it was time to perform, someone's like, the flute guy. We're like, and where to go.
And you can't mime a flute?
No, you can't. You can't sing it, you can't do anything. We had to get someone and bring them and all of that.
Wow.
So those glitches have been happening for ages. And Paul will blame me, I'll blame Tsepo. So it goes around like this, and then there's like an aggressive fight.
It's like a DJ forgetting a USB.
Yeah, definitely. It's like you guys back in the day, Nel Performer got dead.
Dead. I was about to say that I did forget it dead.
Fights at dead where, someone will take dead to the crowd, music stop.
Damn it. Rapid fire choices. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Morning person or night owl?
Night owl.
Vinyl or digital?
Vinyl.
Yeah, dream collaborations. Is there any artist or band you've always dreamed of collaborating with?
Coldplay.
Why?
Coldplay creates music that's full of life, that's full of color, that's soothing, that's healing, and they're the ultimate boy band that you can ever come across. They're geniuses, man.
If you go back in time to attend any concert in history,
yes,
which one would it be?
Probably Tupac.
Which concert? Any
concert. Well, back then in fact, there's one concert I would like to go back to. Is a concert where Queen performed. They were fundraising for, I think for Africa or for Ethiopia or something like that. Concert Queen performed. I think they were one of the bands that were underrated, but they killed that show. What was it? Not Unity something. Yeah, but I'd definitely go to a Queen concert because Tupac did not perform in many concerts. He didn't have. It was mostly clubs and small gatherings.
What's the most memorable or unusual gift you've received from a fan?
I'm a fan. I'm one person who's never gotten much gifts and all of that. There's one guy who once gave me a penny whistle, brand new penny whistle from Strata Saga, from Kutiplouf, one of the families that we know from our hood. This guy, when I was, I think, what age I was, gave me a brand new penny whistle, and they were very scarce. It's like one instrument that you can't find lying around. You can't buy it, and he gave me a Horner one, original. I don't know where he got it from. And I still have it to this day. I've performed it with it so many times, and it's B-flat. It was brand new, dentless, nothing. He came to me, and was like, Kia flute. He's not a fan. It's like a nice Grotman, and he appreciated what I was doing with music and all of that. And I was like, yo. So so many people have, well, given me things, but I don't think it comes to that one.
Wow. I gave somebody my flute years back and I haven't seen the guy ever since. Thanks, Tebogo. It was nice being with you.
Thank you so much.
And hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next time I'm interviewing you. Kupa, before the day I interview you and I want to do the interview. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Because I think
Guys, do you agree?
Yeah, I think you have to be interviewed as well.